I'm Ryan. We've been getting a lot of questions from the news groups and from people who are starting to build databases for our application building contest and publish them up to accesshosting.com about what it means to publish a database. And so I'm going to show you an example of taking an existing Access database, publishing it up to the web, and creating web forms and views on top of it to allow you to bridge the gap between the client and the web.
So in this demo, I have a database that's a 2007 database, a simple task list client database. I want to move this into the browser. So the first thing I'll do is check its web compatibility. So I can go to File, Publish, and I can run our compatibility checker. Now it flags some warnings, so let's go take a look at those warnings. So it looks like we have a control name that's invalid for SharePoint. The control name is called %complete with the % sign. So let's go take a look at that table. And let's actually just go change that to %complete. Now we can rerun our compatibility checker. It passed. Fantastic. So now we can move this database up to the web. So let's actually put it up on a new service that's doing a trial offer called accesshosting.com. You can go to accesshosting.com and you can sign up and you can use the beta to publish against it and try out the service. So I have an account set up. So I'm going to go to Ryan, accesshosting.com. And I'm going to call this site Tasks Demo. It'll ask me for my username and permissions. It'll go ahead and kick off the publish process. Now it's moving all of my tables up into SharePoint lists, and then it's taking all of my objects, which are client objects, and actually storing them up on the server. And that has a few different meanings that I'm going to explain to you in a second once we finish publishing. Great, our publish succeeded, and now we get a URL to go view our application. Let's go take a look in the browser. We can authenticate again. So now it's our database up in the browser. You can see that our tables, our forms, our queries and macros are all here. So the next question is I want to view these forms. And when I go to click on them, I only see modify. I don't see view. Now that's because these are legacy forms. And existing forms in Access 2007 don't become web forms. You have to create new web forms. Does this mean you have to completely rebuild your database in order to use the service? Not entirely. The application still runs fully in the client, so people can continue to use the application, but now instead of living on a LAN or a network share or a desktop, it lives up inside SharePoint. And that way it's very easy for you to deploy updates or maintain or manage the data inside of it, and people can still use the Access client to work against this application. And they can use it from any location once they've authenticated with SharePoint. But what's interesting is now that I have my application up in the web, I can start to build on top of it different web forms and different web views. So let's go take a look at how we do that. So back in my application, I'm going to make a new navigation for the web. I can go to Create. I can pick a simple navigation. And I can call it my web home. Let's spell that correctly. Let's call this home form. And I want to be able to look at my tasks on the web. So I'm going to go to my tasks and create a simple data sheet. Now you notice that the things I'm creating have little globe icons on them. Globe icons mean they're a web form versus a client form. The difference here is the web forms will render on the browser and in the client, or the client forms will only render in the client, but will give you the advantage of the rich design environment and VBA and more advanced features. But we just need a data sheet. So we're going to go ahead and create a data sheet of tasks. And we'll save that. Tasks web. And we can go ahead and grab that. Now you'll notice that it's got a little globe icon on these two here. Drag it onto our interface. We can go ahead and save that. And we want this to appear when we first come to the site. So we can go into our options and go to our startup form. And now, in addition to having a display form, which will be the form that appears when you first open the database in a client, we can also decide what the web experience is. In this case, we want to open our home form if you're in the browser. So let's say OK, and let's go back and let's sync it. So now if we go back to our browser and we click on our site, we get taken to our new web form, and our datasheet with our tasks appears. And this allows anybody to start interacting and working with the data without requiring the client. But what it also allows is the ability to continue to use the client and leverage the existing forms and reports I have, not only for reference to build web ones, but even if I don't need to build web ones, I can just continue to have a certain set of users use the client and enjoy the functionality and the VBA and the different advanced design functionality you get out of it, while starting to migrate portions of the app that require being available in the browser. So this really allows you to have the best of both worlds in a hybrid environment.